mu si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bësal mu fine.
What?
Bësal mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave acts in Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills, and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Bësal mu fine. Wave, your money is yours.
JICA Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. JICA Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Welcome back, and if you'd like to advertise on the program, get in touch with Mr. Jibril Jassi on 6990107 or 7870107 or 9242424. It's 8:32 a.m. in the Gambia. And as I said in introducing today's program, my first guest will discuss accounting and auditing. He's Mr. Paul Gaye. He's the president of the Gambia Institute of Chartered Accountants, GICA. Thanks for coming on the show, Paul. And to begin with, what are the role and responsibilities of the Gambia Institute of Chartered Accountants, GICA?
Good morning, Peter, and thank you very much for having me here this morning on Coffee Time. The Gambia Institute of Chartered Accountants was established by an Act of Parliament, Act of National Assembly, embedded in the Financial Reporting Act of 2013. We have a wide range of responsibilities, primarily the registration of all chartered accountants who are in the Gambia, as well as we have the responsibility of protecting public interest. Public interest in the sense that all public entities, public enterprises, being the public sector and private sector, to ensure that their financial reporting aspects are accurate, reflecting the true figures that those institutions represent, as well as those in the private sector as well. So we have that responsibility to ensure that reporting of financial statements reflect their true statements and values. We also have the responsibility of maintaining public trust and integrity of the profession, and then to align ourselves with the International Federation of Accountants, which is a global body for all accountancy and audit organizations worldwide. Every country should be a member. And it is also our responsibility to ensure that Gambia will have its own examination structure. That is, to be able to issue our own qualification, similar to ACCA that you may have heard.
Yeah.
CIMA, that's the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria or Ghana. So it is one of our responsibilities to ensure that sooner rather than later, Gambia will have its own chartered accountancy qualification that is recognized globally.
Mm-hmm. And what about the relationship with other institutions like the Financial Reporting Oversight Board, FROB, the Accounting, Auditing and Corporate Governance Standards Committee?
Yes, the Financial Reporting Act of 2013, the way it was created, you have the Gambia Institute of Chartered Accountants as the sole regulatory body, ensuring that we register members, register practitioners and firms. But we have two technical sister organizations, the Financial Reporting Oversight Board, which is a highly technical body responsible for identifying public interest entities, entities in which their functioning is of public interest in terms of economic and financial activities. And they're also responsible in ensuring that those public interest entities, their reporting is up to the required local and international standards, and then the auditing of those PIEs are also within international guidelines as well. On the other hand, you have the Accounting, Auditing and Corporate Governance Standards committee, which is responsible for setting and formulating accounting standards, auditing standards, and corporate governance standards, ensuring that ethical values are followed and so on. So these are two separate, highly technical organizations that support the profession in the country.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of regulation, what tools are available to JICA to ensure regulation of the auditing and accountancy profession or professions? And what about compliance? Members complying?
Well, to start with, we are a profession in which everybody should have trust in us, and that trust we created. In an organization, when you want to invest, like in a company, you first have to look at the financial statements to determine whether it's a viable company or not. And from there, you'll have the confidence of making a decision to invest. And that confidence is embedded in the audit report that is provided by the auditors. And therefore, whatever you see in that audit report will guide you whether to invest or to hold on or not to invest. And for such a sensitive rule, our members then have to be regulated. It's not every qualified chartered accountant who can be an auditor. There are certain rules and guidelines that determines who should be an auditor. For instance, it would be somebody who would have worked in an audit firm, guided and supervised for up to 3 years, and to have undergone continuous professional development for a minimum of 40 hours for at least 3 years. It is annual for every accountant and on a continuous basis. And there are other guidelines in which we have to look at before somebody is qualified to be registered as a practice certificate holder. Then from there, the firm that you want to create or register is also looked at separately to ensure that they tick all the boxes, all guidelines stipulated in the Financial Reporting Act of 2013. Mm-hmm. So the regulation is quite stiff, but it's global. It's not only restricted to Gambia, and is to show the users of financial statements and other decision makers that the people you rely on are regulated. So whatever you see in the reports that they produce should be relied upon.
Mm-hmm. And what are the consequences for any company that doesn't comply?
Well, I would say our members, because we regulate our members in terms of the requirements that they should fulfill to be registered, the requirements they should fulfill to have their registration renewed. I would say that in some cases, we do face some resistance, but we encourage them always to comply because, for instance, to run an audit firm, you need two partners, not only one partner, but two. Simply because if you have the engagement partner who will be overseeing the day-to-day conducting of the audit, then you'll have another partner who would be the risk partner to carry out the peer review. In the event something is missed by the engagement partner, it will be picked up by the review partner who is also the risk partner. So we always insist, and it's enshrined in the Act of National Assembly, that every practicing firm must have two partners to start with, together with other requirements, and to also undergo every 2 to 3 years a quality assurance review, which determines whether the manner in which the audit exercise is being conducted is being conducted in the right way. Lack of compliance, the penalties can be severe because it's within our legal rights to suspend the practice certificate that would stop the audit firm from practicing. and we have other measures as well. Suspending the audit practice certificate, that's the most severe, which obviously we don't want to do, but there are other penalties in which we can levy on the practitioner. But before get going into all that, we work very closely with practitioners and with audit firms to encourage them. You'll see resistance from every now and then, but they come back to comply in most cases.
Our guest this morning is Mr. Paul Gaye, President of the Gambia Institute of Chartered Accountants, and I believe also auditors, because they are responsible for both.
Yes, we are.
From your explanation, it's clear that there has to be a code of conduct. Can you talk to us about, the JICA code of conduct?
Well, certainly, accountancy and audit is a noble profession. It's a profession in which there must be trust and integrity. So even the appearance of the accountant and the auditor must be convincing, because people are entrusting us with their financial reporting affairs and their auditing affairs as well. And the behavior of the accountant and the auditor is crucial. Behavior in terms of the way they write, how it is published, the way they speak, the way they conduct themselves, the way they carry themselves. But most importantly, their work ethics, honesty. They should produce accurate and reliable figures so that the users can rely on them. One particular example is we now have a stock exchange called the Security and Exchange Commission of the Gambia under the central bank. Companies will be listed on that exchange, and those companies, people will invest in them. And before you invest, you have to determine whether the company is profitable, is viable, it will be in continuous existence. And those figures are produced by accountants, and they are audited by auditors. And obviously, those reports must reflect their true picture. If you, for instance, present a report of a company which is highly profitable, highly liquid, with a lot of cash, with a lot of assets, only to realize that they're not correct, you can mislead investors. Sure. And certainly you invest your money in that company, for it to go bust is something else. So we always have to ensure that the integrity is always there, report what is on the ground, and if remedial action has to be taken, then they'll be taken. Because it's not always that an auditor's report will make a good reading to the recipient. Some cases, a report will be filed by an auditor or produced by the auditor. It may not be received well, but with the recommendations implemented, it can turn that entity around. And that is where I want auditees to always understand that having a report that is not favorable to them is nothing bad. It is just an alert that things can be turned around. You need to do some more work for things to go on, because otherwise, with a situation being toxic year in, year out, at the end of it all, it will just lead to explosion. So that is what we do, which companies, public sector must understand, that we are partners with them. We are working together with them to add value to their organizations, and they must be able to understand that relationship. I always say that in situations where there's a lot of work in an organization, what we deliver is a quinine tablet, which is always bitter. But once it is swallowed, you get better.
Absolutely.
So an organization that is facing financial distress or having other issues affecting its performance, it is the auditor that will come to identify those areas. Because auditing, let me just make this clear, it's not about just looking at figures. We have a holistic approach. you look at the operations, because the operations are things that will generate revenue. I mean, you look at the human capital, the human resources. You have a good staff who are performing, delivering. It ensures that the operations will also be formidable. And at the end of it all, they'll transform into revenue as well. So we look at it, we look at things in a wide range of areas, even health and safety as well within the organization. So putting all of those together, it's what makes an organization to be highly performing. And that's the role of auditors, because things have changed from what it used to be. Like bookkeeping in those days only figured. It has gone beyond that. Look at financial analysis, advising decision makers to take the right steps, right actions, for their organizations, not only to be operational now, but into the future.
Sure.
To be able to identify future threats and future opportunities, or in other words, looking at the SWOT analysis of the organization, present and the future as well.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Axel James Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de. Luta mënulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello? Kan lay waxal?
Bussul mu fine.
What?
Bussul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. Ak Wave. Bussul mu fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
Absolutely. And, in the execution of his or her job, independence is important to the auditor. Why must auditors be allowed to be independent?
Well, that is key. That is key. Simply because it is not always that you will see something that may be favorable to that organization. And for that matter, we have to use a lot of professional judgment. The evidence that we gather, obviously we have to exercise flexibility to be objective, looking at things in different perspectives, in different ways. And we are also guided by rules. I've mentioned earlier accounting standards, whether it applies to your foreign exchange, the standards on foreign exchange, or standards on revenue, your fixed assets, your equipment, whatever they are. And then we ensure that we look at other areas before reaching a conclusion. So to be independent, the auditor has to be free from manipulation, to keep a level head, ensure that what you are reporting is exactly what it should be. And that independence is in two ways. The auditor himself or herself must be independent as a person. And the auditor also has to avoid that influence being jeopardized from an external source as well. It may be difficult sometimes, whereby there may be threats, undue influence, and other activities that can affect the independence of the auditor. But it is key for the auditor to be independent himself.
Mm-hmm. Now, for any government, that is looking to develop its country, they will tell you that one or two things are key: peace and stability. Even foreign investors, before they go into a country, they want to know how safe the country is, how stable its politics, are, and so on and so forth. Who looks at, audit and, accounting reports? I mean, in considering to come into a country or even within a country, who gives attention to these?
Well, development can only take place when there is stability and tranquility, mm-hmm. and thank God we have that in Gambia. Mm. let's start with the foreign direct investors. They're coming into the country. They don't know anybody around. But because auditing is such a universal profession, in every sector that they want to invest in or in any company, there will be a set of information that they'll have to rely on. And one of them is the audit report. And even where that is not available for that particular sector, or maybe they want to start a business, from fresh, working with an auditor, they'll be independently guided in terms of the particular industry that they want to invest in. And they know that they're dealing with somebody who is guided by professional rules, and they will receive good professional advice. Others who rely on our work are the public sector and the private sectors, because they have to make certain key decisions which are based on our reports. You have our international donor partners like the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, African Development Bank, Badia, name them. They invest a lot in this country by disbursing loans and grants to the government, like they do with most governments in the world. And they want to know how their monies have been spent. And they rely on the audit reports that they receive from us. Well, that is primarily, when it comes to those organizations, the role of the National Audit Office, but they outsource a lot of them to private audit firms because there are so many, and international charity organizations as well. But what is key is that you have our commercial banks, our insurance companies, who deal with corresponding banks abroad for their foreign payments, and our insurance companies who deal with their reinsurers in other countries. And they want to see their annual financial statements for that partnership to continue. And those audit reports are prepared by local auditors. So you can see that they must have confidence in what is done locally for their operations and partnership to be able to continue. And that is why it is important that we maintain public trust and integrity within our profession to make sure that the reports we issue are reliable and reflect what that organization is all about.
Mm-hmm. Earlier on, you spoke about the importance of continuous development of the accountant or the auditor. What does JICA do, to, build, enhance the capacity of its members?
Well, it is part of our mandate to continuously develop the technical skills of our members through what we call continuous professional development, in short CPD. Mm-hmm. We run different CPD programs in terms of building financial statements. We do CPDs on corporate governance and in different areas to continuously enhance the technical skills of our members, because qualifying as an accountant is just the first step. It's just the beginning. And every member is required to undergo a CPD program for a minimum of 40 hours a year in various areas to refresh knowledge and to also adapt to changes in the environment, new accounting standards, new auditing standards, or amended standards, and so on. So we provide it at JICA, and then we divide our CPD program into categories as well. That is, those within the middle sector and those at the strategic at the strategic level as well, to ensure that we deliver those programs at different levels. It is not specifically like going back to the classroom, you have the teacher here and there, but it's like an interactive session in which we run it for a whole day or 2 days with different presenters or speaker coming to present, and we have debates and discussions and share knowledge amongst ourselves. So we do that every year, which is part of the mandate of JICA.
And when you look at membership poll in the Gambia of the chartered accountancy profession, are you happy with the numbers? And if not, what might JICA be able to do to boost the numbers?
Well, my honest answer is that we want to see more Gambians taking up the chartered accountancy program, because you have a lot of accountants. The academic accountants, for example, University of the Gambia will always produce about 200 academic accountants a year, whereas for the chartered accountants, we'll be happy to have like 5 every year. So you can see that there is a gap. And the difference being that we have a different level of training. Certain technical aspects of accountancy is covered in the chartered accountancy syllabus and not in the syllabus of the academic accountants. And then to sign off public accounts, it is the chartered accountant who is licensed to do that. And that is because of our level of training. So we always encourage those who've already done the academic program to also register for the chartered accountancy program. But the issues we come up with is that it's too expensive, which is true, it's expensive, and it's too difficult, and that's where I disagree, because nothing is difficult. If you work hard with determination, there will always be success as well. Absolutely. So we continue to encourage the academic accountants, because we have a scheme whereby they can register with us as student members, and then we encourage them to register on the ACCA program or the program being run by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Ghana, Nigeria, so that we can boost our numbers as well. So that's one of our main challenges, to really increase the numbers as well, because certain things by law, not only in Gambia but globally, can only be done by a chartered accountant. Auditing is one of them, and so on.
This next question is, by no means meant to drag you into any political controversy, but we can't discuss, the role of an auditor or accountant without, asking about opinion. You mentioned opinion earlier on. Is an auditor's opinion mere opinion?
Okay, in every profession, whether it's the medical profession, the legal profession, or even the engineering profession, we all have our terminologies. And the accountancy profession, and auditors, we also have our own terminologies as well. When we say opinion, we are referring to the evidence gathered during the process of audit investigation, analyzed, reviewed, interpreted, and then guided by various rules, whether they're accounting standards or audit standards. Then we come to form an opinion based on the evidence. So to directly answer your question, no, it is not the opinion of the auditor as a person, but it's the opinion based on several factors put together and guided by professional rules. But I can tell you, if you were to conduct a survey throughout the Gambia at various strategic points in the country, you will always get that, receive that grammatical interpretation of an opinion as well. But it means the professional opinion gathered after going through several activities as well.
And just in closing, because we've eaten up all the time that should have gone to my second interviewee, and very soon the Minister of Information will walk through that door. How would you like to conclude this conversation? Just closing remarks, as they say.
Well, I would say that independence, really, of the auditor, we can't complain, but we would emphasize that the independence should continue to be maintained. I can quote the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, who is one of our members. He's a chartered accountant himself. And he stresses very strongly, he strongly emphasized the need for auditors to be independent, for auditors to maintain public trust and integrity as well. We have the responsibility to continue to work with our partners, in both the private and public sector, to make them believe more that we add value to their organizations, and we just make it better as well.
Fantastic. Good luck with that. Paul, thank you very much for coming to the program.
Thank you, Peter.
Paul Gaye is the president of the Gambia Institute of Chartered Accountants. It's coffee time with Peter Gomez.
JAR Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. JAR Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Suway.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Basel Mufine, Wave, your money is yours.